Final Destination 5. I thought the films would be over by now, but you know something? I just got finished watching that movie last night because we had Hurricane Irene, so I figure if it's going to be the end of my neighborhood and it's going to be crashed down, I might as well watch something related to it. I watched Final Destination 5 last night, which was a very short movie. It was like an hour and 20 minutes. But again, death was cheated out. Now, let me remind you where we're at with this Final Destination saga. Final Destination 1, Death tried to destroy people in a plane, which starred that dude who was in that Eminem video. Then Death tried to kill a bunch of people in in a freeway with a big giant logging company. Basically, broke off and tried to kill people there. That was with Ali Lauder and AJ Cook was in that, if I remember. Then Death tried to kill people in a roller coaster. That was with Jesse Moss was in that. And then the Final Destination, that was when Death, which I know nobody in that movie, that was when Death tried to kill people in a racetrack. Basically, it was a one of those like sporting events where they were having a racing competition, whatever, and finally Death decided to come one more time at a bridge, and this is where we're at now. Now, I watched this movie, and again, once again, Death was cheated when 8 people survived the deadly bridge crashing that Death was supposed to kill everybody off. But the people who survived, Death is after them again. But this time, this was a little different than the other Final Destination films, because the guy that looked like Tom Cruise, or he looked like that dude from Superman Return, he was the most interesting character of all the characters in the movie, because while everybody else was acting dopey and everyone, they did the same like scenario, he was the only interesting one. Because I won't blow too much of the movie up, because for those who haven't seen it, but when you see the ending of this film, not the very end, because the very end basically starts from the very first film, you'll understand it when you see the movie, but the guy that looked like Tom Cruise, he was the only interesting one, because they kind of did a different twist with this film. I'm not saying that this is the greatest film I've ever seen, but they put a little bit more effort into it to make it more interesting. But all in all, it's the same type of movie, same type of depth. The depths are what makes this movie interesting. Like in this time around, the only cool deaths that I liked in the movie in Final Destination 5 was the girl who was getting the eye surgery and the girl who was in the gymnastics scene. Those were like the only two, and of course the bridge scene where everybody fell and died before the premonition, before one of the characters woke up and realized what was happening. But something with these Final Destination films, I guess if it makes money, I guess continue to do it. It's okay. It's not the greatest. It's not that bad neither. It's just, I think the problem with these films is that it's the same type of story. I think this time around, if they do Final Destination 6 and it's the final one, do the background story on Death. Do a story about why is it that Death seems to come back, because it seems to relate to Tony Todd's character. I would think I would want to do a backstory on Death and how we got to this point. Try to bring back all the characters from the first movie and sort of do like a little prequel on it. I think people get tired of the same story after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 films. And it's just, okay, the death scenes are interesting because my particular favorites were the airplane in part 1, the roller coaster in part 3, and this last one, I kind of like the bridge thing. It was interesting. But the only thing is that, people get tired of the shitty, people, in horror movies, you don't expect, the greatest of acting, but you just at least like an interesting story. And this had an interesting story towards the end. But all in all, yeah, I do agree that this could have been better. I liked it. It was super short. It was like only, what, 80 minutes? It wasn't even like a 90-minute film. And then, the gory scenes were interesting. The characters, nobody really give a shit about. I didn't really care if it was in 3D, 2D, 1D. Nobody cares about that neither. Just the whole idea that, they kind of did a different, trying to have a different twist on it. The critics kind of rate that this was a good film because it was pretty good at some parts of the film, but, the ending was what made it more interesting. And then, at the I'm not talking about the very, very end, just to the end of how we got there, because I won't blow up the ending, because if I blow it up, then people who haven't seen it will be like, oh, that's pretty shitty, you ruined the movie. So, all in all, it's a 2-star film. I mean, it's not a horrible film. I think that this movie is a little better than The Final Destination. Not as good as the first film, of course, because the first film was the best one. But, I would go check it out. I wouldn't make a big deal of it. I would just go there, bring a girlfriend there. If you want to get laid, you want her to, suck your dick in the middle of this film, that's fine. But for the most part, don't take this film too seriously, because it's one of those movies out there, like, as always. I think that this film would have been better had it came out, like, in Halloween time. You could have, it didn't make as much money, which, it's expected, but, something, I would have pushed this movie for a Halloween release. But the only problem is that you got Red State, you got Paranormal Activity 3, and then you got the prequel of The Thing, and that's going to be a hard competition. But, something, it's okay. I'm not gonna bust balls on it. I just thought, they could have, the guy that looks like Tom Cruise, he's the most interesting one. The rest of the characters, I didn't really care. But, check out the movie. It's okay. Nothing to bark about. See it once. Just tell yourself I saw it. Wait till it comes out in DVD when it goes down to like $3, because I wouldn't spend $19 on this. But you know what? Wait till it gets to about $5 the most, and then buy it. Until then, if you're going to spend that kind of money in the theater for the 3D experience, save your money, because I heard it was shitty. It was just like, they didn't really put no effort behind the 3D, but, for the most part, it's okay. It's nothing to get excited about, but, I definitely would check it out when it comes out of DVD.